Hey there everybody, it's Mike DiLisio with another solo mode review. Today I'm going to be taking a look at Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion from Cephalofair Games and designer Isaac Childress. This is the newest game in the Gloomhaven line. This is a smaller box game intended to get players that maybe aren't as familiar with the game into it in a more easy to learn way. I'm going to do things a little bit different this time. I'm not going to go to the table and show you the components or anything along those lines. I'm going to point you to Tom Vassal's review of the game. For that, I'll link it to the description in this video. I'm strictly going to be talking about the solo experience. So, that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so as I mentioned a moment ago, I didn't head over to the table to show you an overview of the game because the solo game is exactly the same as the multiplayer game. It's just that you play with two characters if you're playing solo. So if you wanted to get an idea of the overview of the game, take a look at Tom's review of it and you can get an idea there. But I do want to talk about some solo benchmarks that I focus on in these solo mode reviews. The first is win conditions. Is there a clear win-loss condition? Beat your high score? Well, this is a cooperative game, so there's a clear win-loss condition. Each scenario has specific things you need to do to be successful. You either are or you are not. So that is the type of solo game I tend to enjoy, and Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion is certainly going to be one that has that clear, you've won or you haven't. No ambiguities there. You do feel that pressure of, am I going to make it or am I not? Next is setup and teardown, and this is huge. I'm not going to get ahead of myself too much because in my final thoughts I'm going to be talking about this in more detail, but the setup for this game is very manageable. It is, by the way it's designed, set to be one that you can quickly get on the table and get playing. It's not a long, onerous setup. It's all clearly laid out, and the components are limited enough that you don't feel bogged down in pieces and chits and counters, things along those lines. That's a huge plus for me, and you'll see why when I get to my final thoughts. But the setup and teardown for the experience you get in this game is very, very good. You can get up and playing relatively quickly. Rules. The rules are also a huge positive for me in this game because, again, by its very design, this is a game that is one that's going to walk you through the process. If you're an experienced Gloomhaven player, you're not going to necessarily need the rules to be laid out for you in that way. You're going to already kind of know what to do. But this product is designed to really, at least the way I interpret it, is that it's designed to get newer players into this world and into this type of gaming. People that maybe are picking this up at a big box store and are not really familiar with as many games like this. The rules are set up in such a way that it really walks you through the process. And it takes what could be an intimidatingly complex game and really makes it one that is easily digestible. And that to me is a huge plus. They've done a fantastic job of writing the rules in such a way that you learn only as much as you need at any given point in the scenario, campaign, etc. They give you enough that you don't feel lost, that you don't feel like you have no idea what's going on, but they also don't give you more than you need, which can be a bit overwhelming. So, overall, what do I think of Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion as a solo game? I've got a history with base game Gloomhaven. It's a game that I owned twice and got rid of twice. And the main reason behind it was not because of the gameplay. I felt like the card play especially was very, very clever. I felt like it's a game that is really in the wheelhouse of most solo gamers in that it's very puzzly. It lends itself to being one where you can take your time to kind of figure out your turn and how you want to do it. But there were certain aspects of the game that just did not fit me as a gamer. And these are very personal things, but some of you might relate to this, and so it might also be applicable to you. Number one was that base game Gloomhaven for me took too long to set up. It was this huge box with hundreds of pieces of cardboard counters and components, and the amount of time that it took to get it off the shelf onto the table, set up to play, to me was so much that I would oftentimes look at it up on my shelf and go, you know what? I just don't have it in me. I just don't. I was overwhelmed by the amount of time that it took to get the game on the table. The few times that I did, the experience was enjoyable, but then I felt like, okay, I need to leave this on my table and play it over and over and over again because I don't want to have to put it back up on the shelf and bring it back. And oftentimes I just didn't do that. So Gloomhaven was a game that I understood the appeal. It's obviously immensely popular. I understood the appeal and I appreciated the design, but the actual production of it was too much and it didn't fit me as a gamer. It didn't fit my gaming lifestyle. Well, Jaws of the Lion completely flips that on its head. This is the game I wanted Gloomhaven to be. Now, that's not to take away from people that love base Gloomhaven. And for some people, my very negatives are the things they love the most about the game. They love that it's this big, huge, immense game that's going to take hours and hours and days and weeks and months to complete. That's just not me as a gamer. And so Jaws of the Lion is perfect for me because it has everything that I loved about Gloomhaven, which is really the clever card play, the tactical positioning on the board, and the satisfying feel when you're able to combo your characters together. But it's in a package that works for me. It is so quick to set up and tear down. The biggest thing, the real game changer for me in Jaws of the Lion compared to base Gloomhaven is the scenario book. Now, instead of sorting through piles and piles of cardboard tiles to set up a map, the map is already preset in a spiral-bound book, and you're just placing monsters and traps and obstacles. It is night and day, the experience for me. It is, as I've said before, and I'm going to say it again, it's a game changer. It turns Gloomhaven into a game that I appreciated from afar, but just came to terms with would never be for me, and turned it into a game that now is for me. Jaws of the Lion is the game I wanted Gloomhaven to be. And if you already love Gloomhaven, and maybe you don't want a scaled down version, you're probably still interested for those new characters. So I do think that it's a wide appeal game. It's, in my opinion, a wider appeal game than base game Gloomhaven because it is less intimidating to newer players just by its very nature. And so Jaws of the Lion was something that was a bit of a eye-opener for me. I went into it open-minded, but I had a little bit of a history with Gloomhaven. And so maybe my mind wasn't as open as it would have been if I was just coming across it the first time. But it not only met my expectations, it exceeded them. As a solo game, it's terrific. Now, it is a bit more complicated to play as a solo gamer because you're controlling two characters, and especially as those characters progress and they get more and more skills and abilities and things that unlock and trigger, it can really be a brain burner, but it's also very satisfying when you can synergize your characters together. And so the payoff is worth the brain burn and the slightly added complexity to play it. It's a game that's harder to play solo than it is multiplayer because you're accounting for more. But again, I feel like it's worth it. So overall, Jaws of the Lion was a really big surprise for me. I did not expect that it was going to have quite the effect that it did. I rate it as an outstanding solo game. I'm giving an 8.5 out of 10. I think that it's a game that if you were scared off by Gloomhaven in the past, or maybe you had tried it and it was too much for you, you really need to give this one a shot, because if you liked the card play, if you liked the tactical elements of the game, but you didn't like the huge setup and teardown, the massive box size, and the time investment, this takes care of all three of those. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great day.